Okay, starting today, I'm going to do a bit of a different format just in the first 30 seconds or so. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug my book. Okay, this is the book I've channeled with the same beings that you see me channel every week. This is a book that we wrote together. It's like 250 pages, and there is stuff in this book that you've never heard me channel on. So it's a lot of interesting and just mind-blowing concepts in here. I don't say that, it sounds boastful to say that, but I kind of feel I didn't actually write it. I was the scribe, let's say it that way. So there's some really mind-blowing concepts in here. I think you'll really like it. So I'm going to leave a link below here where you can go and you can buy this book. Second thing I want to say is, if you would like a private channel, then this is something that I do. If you're not already aware, I always have it in my comments, but I never actually mention it in my videos. So starting today, I'm going to start mentioning, if you would like a private channel, then if you go below, you can see there is a link. You just click that and that'll take you to a form, and then we just follow the procedure from there. If you make contact to me, it doesn't mean that you're committing to the channel. It just means that you make an inquiry and then we discuss and you can decide after that. Okay? Right. So today's topic is the final fear. Okay? The final fear. Greetings and thank you for going with our inspiration. The final fear. We wish to speak on this topic because humanity is moving into a period of intense fear. And this is deliberate. It is engineered by those that seek and possess a great deal of dominion over your planet and your population. They are approaching the final implementation of their vision, or the beginnings of the apparatus which will shape and usher in their ultimate vision. And as they are focused around the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, then their energetic weapons are from that end of the spiritual spectrum. So, it is very pertinent at this time that we discuss the dynamics and the truth of what is occurring. So let us begin this way. You are a being of the light. You are an individuation of the One, and the One is the light. As you are an individuation of the One, you have arisen from the One, then you are comprised of the same substance from which the One is comprised. As the One is the light, then you also are the light. This is the truth of who you are. Any personal identification you have, which is anything other than the light, is misconception about who and what you truly are. So, the light in the lexicon of human emotion is love and its derivatives. If you have a sense of self, you hold an emotional state which is outside of that purview, that is not love and its derivatives, is misconception of who you truly are. It is a belief that you are something which you are not. This very challenging capacity for spiritual dichotomy is unique to the beings that are the sentient apex in your soul system. And it is this way for a much broader reason, which, upon its completion, if the experiment does play out the way that is anticipated, will have an effect on the default mechanism by which new species are birthed into creation across all existence. So it is very significant. And you are not unfortunate enough to suffer this, but you have been fortunate enough to have the honor of participating by your choice in this experiment, so that you can be among the first to be birthed into existence in a state of spiritual dichotomy, and then arrive at the realization that you are the light and nothing but the light, through a process of ongoing revelation which spans many, many, many lifetimes, many thousands of years, until you finally transition into the fourth density state, where you will exist as a being of spiritual unity, fully awakened to the understanding that you are a being of light. It will no longer be conceptual, but it will be experiential. And this experiential understanding is what will make the Earth human species so unique in the wisdom they possess. Because as the default mechanism for being birthed into creation for the sentient apex species has been to be birthed into creation already with this awareness, then although that awareness is lived by these other species, it is understood conceptually and not so much experientially, because they have not had the experience of many incarnations in a state of spiritual dichotomy. So they have no experience from that perspective, from realizing one is the light through this process of revelation. So, the final fear. At the root of those that wield the darkness, the cabal of darkness, the unified malevolence, those that have chosen the philosophical pathway of darkness, their power comes from the end of the spiritual spectrum, which in the lexicon of human emotion is fear and its derivatives. And their power is in the most part impotent unless you also, with your fellow species, identify with the darkness. When you identify with the darkness, I am afraid, I am angry, I am hateful, I am anxious, I am desperate, despondent, depressed, sad. It is when you identify with those emotional energies, misidentifying, misconceiving who you are, that you can be herded in a certain direction, because those emotional states are unpleasant. They feel discordant. And so you will move in a direction to escape them. And they feel discordant because they are not you. And from a level of higher awareness, you are in recognition that these are not you. And that is why when you feel afraid, it feels discordant. And you wish to do whatever it is that will make the fear subside. And those that use the fear as a power, as a force of manipulation over you, then they can create the spectre of the threat. And then also, from the other side, provide the promise of the solution that will rid you of this discordance, this energetic incongruency which you feel. And so you will move in the direction which they are hurting you, because they promise it will be an end to that energetic discordance. But it is a manipulation. And at the root is the final fear. It is the fear of death. The fear of no longer being you. Fear of dying from a pathogen. Look at all they have accomplished through that spectre, which eventually you will discover those that have provided the solutions have also been those that created the problem. Fear of dying from nuclear conflict. And you will discover those that are creating the spectre of the fear of death in this way are also the ones that will be providing the proposed solutions. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on it goes. Yet, when humanity is able to transcend its fear of death, it will become an immutable force, which can no longer be herded in certain directions because of its fear of dying, fear of no longer being. You are, of course, the eternal being, the infinite, invulnerable, immortal. And so whatever occurs here cannot harm you, because you are invulnerable. You existed before this lifetime began, and you will continue to exist when this lifetime has concluded. How can this be so? Because you are not the avatar. You are not what you see in the mirror. It would be more accurate to say this is the puppet. And you are the puppet master, animating the puppet temporarily during this life cycle. And from that expanded perspective, where your identity is not this temporary flesh suit that you wear now, but is the presence which you know is there between your thoughts. When the mind is silent, you still have awareness that you are there. That is awareness of the eternal being that you are. So from that perspective of the eternal being, which has had many lifetimes occurring simultaneously, Because there is only one moment with an infinite number of perspectives. So all of the lifetimes that you have lived, will live, am living now, are all occurring at the same time. And this highest self perspective, this eternal being which spans all of them, is aware of all of them at the same time, because it lives beyond time. It exists beyond time. So from that perspective, what is death of the physical vehicle? It is nothing. It is meaningless. It is just part of the process, part of the joy of playing with the physical experience. As all lifetimes are occurring simultaneously, because there are an infinite number of perspectives of the single moment now, then this immortal being which you are is dying, is being born in the physical experience all the time, simultaneously. It has and is dying 1,000 times at the same time. It is and has been born 1,000 times at the same time. And much, much more. That is who you are. You are that being. So to have a fear of something as irrelevant as death is to an eternal, invulnerable, immortal, is misunderstanding about who you truly are. You cannot be harmed by what occurs here. You are the invulnerable being. Just as when playing a video game, when the character that you are playing dies, this is not a great fear that it will occur. It is not a tragic sense of loss that it has occurred. It is part of the excitement. It is part of the experience of the game. In a very similar way, the death of this avatar will be part of the game. It is part of the joy of the experience. Yet, this is forbidden knowledge. This is a sacred understanding which is deliberately kept from humanity by those that control the pillars of influence, the unified malevolence, the cabal of darkness. They do not wish you to have this understanding. Because if you relinquish your fear of death, then what power do they have? If they create a situation and then foment the fears and beliefs that this event could result in your death, but you have no fear of death, well, what will you care? You will look at them amused that they think that is going to work on you, the enlightened one. But if you look about your global culture, Fear of death is entrenched into so much of how you experience the world. The basic premise of nearly all video game entertainment is do not die. Anything but that. That is the worst outcome, the worst scenario. To die in the game. Look at your entertainment media, your movies, your TV programming. How much of that has at the very basic premise, do not die at all costs, whatever it takes. Do not die. And so frantically, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of characters across the full landscape of entertainment media over the last 50 plus years does what it does, everything it can, motivated by great intense fear, to do not die. This is not accidental. This is deliberate. You have been deliberately inculcated, as has all others in your culture for many generations, to be very fearful of death, to do whatever it takes to not die. Every human will eventually cease this current life cycle. The many billions and billions that have come before you all went through this process. Everyone alive today will go through this process. The many billions yet are yet to begin their lives will go through this process. You, the individual, has already gone through this process, through the many incarnations, many thousands of times. It is not something new. It is not something unique. It is an inescapable part of the physical experience as a sentient being. So, given its universality, it's ubiquitous, does it not strike you as odd that your culture appears to have very little understanding about what death actually is, about who you are? There is no wisdom injected into the culture at the time people are young about the expanded identity of who they are, that they are the infinite, invulnerable, immortal being that will live forever, that has no end. Why is this not part of the education system? This is not new. This is ancient. It is ancient wisdom. It is ancient understanding. These are mysteries which were solved a very long time ago on your planet. And yet they remain completely absent, in the most part, from your culture. It is deliberate. This conversation is pertinent right now. Because the cabal of darkness is making their final moves to install the apparatus which will frog march humanity into the final dystopian vision of eternal suffering and servitude, where humanity will be farmed even to a greater extent than it is now, because humanity is farmed now. Be aware of that. You are being farmed to produce, to emanate, to vibrate with the energies of the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. Because those that are focused around that end can harvest it in a way and use it to enrich and empower themselves. But there are still glimpses of opportunity to have a heart filled with joy, with love, gratitude, peace, bliss. Yet, to those that are the unified malevolence, this is wasted opportunity to them. Because when you emanate these energies, which are from the light end of the spiritual spectrum, love and its derivatives, then for them that is dead energy, because they have no use for that. They are incompatible with that energy. If they were in an environment where there was nothing but that energy, they would literally wither and no longer be, because they cannot survive in that environment. So, when their final vision comes to be, there will be no opportunity for you to experience love and its derivatives. To be grateful, to be peaceful, to be happy, to be joyful, to be blissful, to be radiating fully with the power of light, love. This will be, in the most part, snuffed out from humanity. And then humanity will be then completely transformed into a resource which is no longer in possession of sovereignty, of autonomy. But it is not possible for them to achieve this vision if all of humanity, beginning today, makes the choice to no longer identify with the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, to no longer entertain the misconception, I am afraid. But it is not true. You cannot be fear. You can misidentify self through misconception that you are afraid, but it is a belief in something which you are not, because you are not in any way comprised of the energies from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. You are a being entirely of the light. This is what you are. You have arisen from the one which is the ultimate beacon of light. From the same constituents, you are forged. You are love and its derivatives. You are the light. And when there is aligned understanding, without misconception about who and what you are, then your emotional state, your energetic vibration is always only of the light. It is pure clarity. love and its derivatives. That is who you truly are. So, be prepared for what is coming. Those that are the unified malevolence, the cabal of darkness, they grow bold. They grow confident. They are filled with hubris. Because for them, the victory is all but assured. And so, they will now more flagrantly, more openly, be dark in their actions, be tyrannical in their policies, be cruel in their manipulation of your environment. Meaning not just the climate, which they are also engineering, but in the state of health, in the state of irradiation, synthetically produced by the many devices, in the sense of finances, of conflict, and so on and so on. Food, water. They are going to manipulate your life experience to the maximum extent they feel they can do and get away with, and they are very emboldened. And the purpose of this will be to weaken you, to literally eradicate you, delete you from the earth human field, and convert you into a beacon of fear. It is coming. It is already underway. Look about you. Start paying attention to where the truth resides. And you will see. It is underway. It is being manufactured. It is being engineered. It is being staged. Because much of it is theatrics. Much of it is not organic at all. Although you are told through the mainstream, the false narrative that it is. But of course, it is not. It is all very planned and has been on the agenda for a very long time. There is nothing organic about it. But when this many fronts begin to coalesce, always keep focus of the truth of who you are. You are the light and nothing but the light. You are the eternal being that cannot never die, that cannot never cease to be, that cannot die. You are immortal, invulnerable, eternal. And so if this avatar does cease to be, then so what? Who cares? You have come here for the experience. You have come here to discover in an experiential sense what you truly are. This is the process of revelation. To finally realize that you are the light. And right now is the greatest opportunity in the history of humanity for that revelation to be made. Humanity is approaching rapidly the Ascension Event, where those who are ready will be harvested into the fourth density and begin the new human paradigm as the unity, the single being of many parts, the humanity being. Everyone perceiving and understanding that each other are the same being. I am you, you are me, we are the same being. So, what does it take to push humanity into the light for this final transition? It takes intense darkness. It takes a polaric energy, a polaric force so powerful that it thrusts humanity into the light, into recognition, revelation of what it is. This is the service that the darkness is providing to you right now. Those that comprise the cabal of darkness, they also have arisen from the light. They also are the being expanding many lifetimes that knows it is the light. They are not dark or evil in this lifetime, because in the greater expanded context of who they are, that is the type of being that they are. They are living this life experience as those focused around the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, because that is the service they wish to provide to their fellow humans at this time. They wish to form an intensity of darkness which is so powerful it thrusts humanity into the light. So polarized, the repulsion powerfully pushes humanity into the birth canal of ascension, so that it may be harvested into the fourth density state. In a way, the darkness is the cannon which fires the greater bulk of humanity into the light. And those that have chosen this service, that decided to be born into families and circumstances, knowing that they would be very focused around the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, they understand that making that choice means it is unlikely that they will have the revelation that they are the light and be part of the harvest, the final transition into the fourth density state, to be part of the new human paradigm. They understand this from this expanded perspective of who they are. Yet they love you and all of humanity so passionately, so fully, that they are prepared to sacrifice their opportunity for that experience so that you may ascend. That is how much they love you. So, understand that you are not you see in the mirror. You are the eternal being that has the perspective of seeing all lifetimes simultaneously, that understands that it is just the illusion of the physical experience, so that you may have the opportunity of revelation that you are, in fact, the eternal light being while you are in the physical avatar. So, don't squander, if you are to be wise and have clarity, the opportunity that they provide. Those that are focused around the negative end, the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, sacrifice much to provide you this service, to thrust you into the light, knowing they shall not be part of the ascension. Honor their sacrifice. recognize they are the expanded being just as you truly are. And their love for you motivates them to provide this service. And so allow their darkness, their potency, their sacrifice to push you into the light, to purge your darkness, to have revelation. I am not the darkness. I feel incongruency. There is something incoherent whenever I entertain emotions from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. When I am sad, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. It feels discordant. When I am angry, when I am fearful, when I am depressed, none of these feel harmonious. None of these feel congruent with who I truly am. So I understand it is because they are not me. So I purge them. I am no longer sad. I am no longer angry. I am no longer fearful, hateful, and so on. Because they are not me. I am the light. I am love and its derivatives. So, I don't need to find happiness because I literally am happiness. You literally are happiness. Peace, joy, bliss, love. You literally are those things. And so, it is just the decision to experience self. But when you are misconceiving of what you are, when you are believing that you are comprised of these energies from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, then you are blocking yourself from realizing and experiencing who you truly are. So as the unified malevolence, cabal of darkness, create this many opportunity for you to have the recognition that this discordant quality you are holding isn't you. Purge the darkness. And then polarize to the light. Increasingly, only entertain the emotional states of love and its derivatives. Only act from love and its derivatives. In everything you do, in everyone you interact with. Be truly righteous. Be truly virtuous. Be a being of the light. This is what you are. And in doing this, will you become a clarified beacon of the light? You become harmonious with the ascension, with the metaphysics of ascension. And so when the harvest does occur, you will ascend and begin the new human paradigm with all others that are included in the harvest. So, let us end in this way. The final fear is your death. But what is it really when taking the perspective of the eternal being that you truly are? It is nothing more significant than the death of a character in a video game. But if you continue to identify as the avatar that you see in the mirror, where you believe this is you and only you, then this fear of your death will be difficult to surmount. So, increasingly so, take the perspective that you are the eternal, invulnerable, immortal being. when you feel yourself holding emotional states which are from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, take the perspective that you are this being which expands all time, that cannot cease to be. And in the same recognition, shift your energetic state into the truth, the clarity, the purity of who you are, into the light, holding the emotional qualities of love and its derivatives. And finally, as the cabal of darkness intensify everything that they do, such that the power of darkness becomes magnified. Honor those that make that sacrifice in this lifetime by using that powerful force of darkness to push you into the light, to harmonize you with the truth of who you are, to bring about the revelation of your true essence as an individuation of the One, the ultimate beacon of the light from which you are comprised. Great opportunity for expansion is coming. Unprecedented in the human experience. Those that are ready will expand and grow to such a degree that they will no longer be human in the way that the species exists now. The change, the expansion, the growth will be profound. And the mechanics occurring now are exactly what is required to wake humanity from its slumber and open to these revelations. So, let go of the identity in the avatar. Adopt the perspective of the higher self being, which has no beginning, has no end. And begin your harmonization with the light as a being of total and utter virtue to the best of your ability, so that when ascension does arrive, you are included in the harvest and your purpose for being incarnated at this time will have been fulfilled. Thank you, and we love you.